Hi, welcome once again to Conspiracy Cases. I'm Jeff Dixon. We're looking in this conspiracy case at the conspiracy case of the assassination of Martin Luther King, a turning point in American history, certainly a turning point in civil rights history. It is an event that has been remembered, commemorated, and for those that were alive during that era and remember witnessing it and the reports and the aftermath of the assassination, they'll never forget it. We wrapped up our original episode in this series by saying that in the aftermath of his assassination, there were riots in 60 American cities. The shot that killed King was quickly traced to a flop house opposite the motel that he was staying in. That's where police discovered a sniper's rifle, complete with binoculars, and on that rifle there were telescopic sights. The fingerprints of one James Earl Ray were found on the rifle and other equipment. 2 months later, after a massive manhunt, Ray was captured at London's Heathrow Airport trying to leave Britain on a false Canadian passport in the name of Raymond George Sneed. Ray was quickly extradited to Tennessee, where on the 10th of March, 1969, he confessed to the assassination of King and was sentenced to a 99-year prison term. Only days after his conviction, Ray began protesting his innocence. He began saying he had pled guilty on the advice of his attorney, Percy Foreman, who was trying to avoid a trial conviction and trying to keep him from being executed. James Earl Ray declared he had been framed by a gun smuggler called Raul. Ray was not alone in protesting his innocence. For many observers, aspects of the King assassination simply didn't stack up. Here's why. James Earl Ray was a two-bit petty criminal who somehow had found the financial wherewithal to fund an elaborate escape, complete with a false passport. He was intending to fly to South Africa. It beggared belief, too, that he could be so incompetent to drop his private papers, fleeing from the sniper's den, if you will, not to mention leaving so many fingerprints behind. Ray also was not a trained sniper, and the King assassin pulled off what many said was a flawless single-shot kill. On top of that, the drunk who supposedly identified Ray in the flop house just after the shooting was named Charles Stevens. He repudiated later his own identification when he was sober and shown a picture of Ray on camera in a CBS special report. Stevens' uncooperative wife, by the way, was put in a mental institution after disputing her husband's initial identification of Ray. The bullet from King's body was never matched to the gun that supposedly fired it. And witnesses surrounding King at the moment of his death say the shot came from another location, from behind the thick shrubbery near the flophouse, not from the flophouse itself. In 1977, James Earl Ray testified to the House Select Committee on Assassinations that he did not shoot Martin Luther King Jr. The committee disbelieved him, although it allowed the likelihood that he did not act alone. Evidence was examined that the CIA supplied him with the fake ID found on him at the time of his arrest. One alias belonged to a Canadian named Galt, who was known to be a trained rifleman. And so, it wasn't long before into the conspiracy, the CIA became part of the suspicion. But the CIA was not the only party under suspicion for assisting in the MLK assassination. In 1993, Lloyd Jowers, the owner of the grill opposite the Lorraine Motel, informed ABC Television that he had hosted meetings between the Memphis police, the mob, and government agents at which King's killing had been planned. James Earl Ray's lawyer, William Pepper, in his book Orders to Kill, which came out in 1995, pointed the finger of suspicion at the U.S. 20th Special Forces Group. In yet another twist of the plot, an FBI agent named Donald Wilson announced in 1998 that he had been sent papers in Ray's Mustang car with Raul and FBI phone numbers written on them. The evidence dovetailed with the FBI's known hostility to King. The Bureau had been looking at King for a long time, trying to discredit him with allegations of adultery, and had even sent a letter urging him to commit suicide. So, obviously, there's a lot of layers on top of the tragic event itself. Because at the end of the day, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. There was a man who confessed and then renounced that confession, saying he had been forced to do it. And then evidence begins to pile up that seems to indicate that maybe indeed there were more parties at work in making this a conspiracy that continues to ripple through time today. Where's the truth? What can you believe? What can you not believe? See, we're unpacking the conspiracy case to get us to a moment where we can make some spiritual points. Probably, from where you are right now, you already see some of those points coming. But there's more. And so next time, as we open the conspiracy cases again, we will not only dig in, but we will come to the conclusion of just this brief look at a tragic event in American history, the assassination of Martin Luther King.